As you may have heard recently, that yet another Windows 11 update has been a total failure, and we've had to pull this one immediately from our servers.
Let me tell you something that sounds insane until you realize it's completely true. Microsoft, one of the most powerful technology companies on the planet, with over 200,000 employees and decades of engineering experience, cannot ship an update without breaking your computer. And here's the part that should keep you up at night. They know it. They've always known it, and they keep doing it anyway. Another Windows 11 update, another catastrophic failure. Another round of engineers hitting the panic button and pulling it from their servers before it destroyed even more machines. Audio drivers gone, webcams dead, calculators returning errors, computers stuck in boot loops with no way out except a complete reinstall. And Microsoft's response every single time? Push another update to fix the update that broke everything. But this video isn't really about bad updates. What I'm about to show you is something much bigger. A deliberate, calculated decision about what Windows actually is, who it's actually for, and what it's actually doing on your machine right now. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. Stay with me. To understand how bad things are today, you have to remember when things were good. And this isn't nostalgia. This is data. Windows 7, it booted fast, it ran your software, it stayed out of your way, it didn't track your habits, push ads into your interface, or require you to sign into anything. It just worked. Developers loved it. Businesses ran entire operations on it. And here's something that sounds like a joke, but reveals everything about what came later. People figured out that not updating Windows 7 was actually a feature, because updates broke things. Then January 2020 arrived. Microsoft pulled the plug. Hundreds of millions of users pushed toward Windows 10, whether they wanted it or not. Windows 10 was free. And if you've spent any time in tech, you know the question you need to ask when a powerful company gives you something for free. What are you actually paying with? The answer was your data. Telemetry running silently in the background, your activity tracked, your habits mapped, all of it sent straight to Microsoft's servers. You were not the customer anymore. You were the product. And Windows 10 was just the beginning. When Microsoft announced Windows 11, they called it the future. What they actually delivered was a system that locked hundreds of millions of people out before they even had a chance to try it. TPM 2.0, a tiny security chip, made mandatory. No chip, no Windows 11. Millions of people had computers that were 3, 4, 5 years old, machines that ran perfectly well, machines that could absolutely handle the software, but they didn't have this specific chip. And Microsoft's message was simple. Your hardware is now obsolete. Time to buy something new, not because the computers couldn't run Windows 11, they could, but because Microsoft drew an arbitrary line and enforced it. Critics called it the largest e-waste event in consumer technology history. Perfectly functional machines declared trash by corporate decree. Some people bought new hardware. Many chose the exit door instead. And the people who did upgrade, they walked straight into a disaster. The numbers are staggering. Over 20 confirmed critical failures from official updates in 2025 alone. Audio drivers breaking on millions of machines simultaneously, webcams going dead. Gaming performance collapsing by 50% after patches that were supposed to improve things. Boot loops requiring complete reinstalls just to escape. And Microsoft's response every time was identical. Push another update, which introduced new problems, which required another update to fix. The pattern became so predictable that users started refusing to install updates entirely, which created a completely different nightmare. Trust Microsoft and risk breaking your computer. Don't trust them and risk getting hacked. Microsoft built a situation where both choices were dangerous. And here's what most coverage of this gets wrong. They treat the broken updates as the main story. They're not. The broken updates are a symptom. The real story is happening inside Microsoft's buildings, and what's going on in there is worse than anything on your screen. Inside Microsoft right now, there are two groups of engineers at war with each other. The first group is trying to stabilize Windows, fix the boot loops, restore the audio drivers, stop the disasters. They are working on the operating system that hundreds of millions of people depend on every day. The second group has one job: cramming artificial intelligence into every corner of Windows, regardless of whether it makes sense, regardless of what it does to performance. The second group is winning, not because they're building better things, but because Satya Nadella has committed $25 billion to AI infrastructure. That is not a number you write and walk away from. That is a number that requires something to show shareholders. So instead of fixing your audio driver, Microsoft built AI into Notepad, an application whose entire job since 1983 has been to let you type text and save it. Now, with machine learning. Instead of addressing boot loops, they added AI suggestions to the Photos app. The result is a slower, heavier, more unstable operating system wrapped in artificial intelligence that cannot perform the basic tasks Microsoft promised. And nothing proves that more clearly than the story of the feature that was supposed to change everything. Microsoft called Copilot a revolution, built it into everything. Put a dedicated key on your keyboard for it. Replaced the Windows key that has been in the same place on every keyboard for 30 years, just to make sure you couldn't forget it existed. And then users actually tried to use it, a resource-heavy feature consuming memory and processing power while delivering responses so generic and unhelpful that tech forums exploded with complaints. People documented Copilot failing at tasks a basic internet search would solve in seconds. Microsoft had spent billions on this, integrated it forcefully across the entire OS, and it could not deliver. When the backlash hit, Microsoft quietly walked it back, quietly reduced its presence, quietly backed away. But here's the thing about quietly walking something back. It only works if people forgot it happened, and users did not forget. You do not put a feature on someone's keyboard, in their notepad, in their Photos app, in their start menu, everywhere simultaneously, and then expect them to move on when you quietly try to remove it. The trust damage was permanent, and what came next made it catastrophically worse. Microsoft Recall. Every few seconds, Windows takes a screenshot of everything on your screen. Every document opened, every website visited, every private message typed, every image viewed, all of it captured, stored, and made searchable through an AI interface. Microsoft called this a productivity feature. Security researchers called it spyware built directly into the operating system. Then it got worse. The initial version stored all of this data in plain, unencrypted text, meaning any malware, any person with access to your machine, any attacker who got in could read everything you had ever done on that computer. Everything. Third-party developers built tools specifically to block a feature that came pre-installed in the OS you paid for. The UK's Information Commissioner opened a formal investigation. Privacy advocates across Europe raised alarms. Microsoft delayed the rollout, but they never fully abandoned Recall. They kept developing it. They kept pushing toward users. That refusal to simply kill a feature that the entire security community identified as dangerous tells you more about Microsoft's priorities than any press release ever could. Your privacy is not their concern. At best, it is a PR problem to be managed. Here is what setting up Windows 11 actually looks like today. You start. Before anything else, mandatory updates. Then a Microsoft account sign-in, not suggested but required. Then prompts for Microsoft 365. Then Copilot. Then Recall. Then a series of data sharing agreements most people click through because reading all of them would take longer than the installation itself. One reviewer documented 45 minutes just to reach the desktop. And once you're in, the operating system continues the pitch. The start menu surfaces advertisements. The search function delivers AI suggestions, news articles, and sponsored results before showing you the actual file you were looking for. Outlook pushes ads into the inbox of a product you paid for. Your desktop has been transformed into what critics accurately call a monetization surface. Every click, every search, every interaction is an opportunity to sell you something or collect data that will be used to sell you something later. This is not accidental. The defaults tell you what a company actually wants. And what Microsoft wants, by default, is to monetize every aspect of your experience on hardware you already own. Germany banned Microsoft Office formats from all government documents. Every federal ministry, every state government, every municipal office across the country. Then they went further. The state of Schleswig-Holstein migrated 30,000 government employees off Windows entirely, moving them to Linux and open source software permanently. France announced similar plans. Denmark followed. Countries across Europe reaching the same conclusion independently. The reasons cited are consistent everywhere: privacy concerns, security vulnerabilities, cost, and a complete loss of confidence in Microsoft's ability to deliver stable, trustworthy software. These are not frustrated consumers. These are national governments responsible for citizen data, national security, and critical public infrastructure. And they have officially decided they cannot trust Windows. When governments start building alternative ecosystems, specifically to reduce dependence on your product, you have moved far beyond a customer service problem. You are in the middle of a geopolitical realignment, and the market data confirms the mass rejection is wider than just governments. So where are all these people going? Because the market data makes one thing unmistakably clear: they are not going to Windows 11. Between October and December of 2025, Windows 11's market share dropped 5% in just 2 months, 5% in 60 days. And during that same period, Windows 10, the operating system that Microsoft officially declared dead and ended support for, actually gained users. Think about what that means. People are choosing to run an unsupported, officially dead operating system over the currently supported, actively developed flagship product. They are consciously accepting a higher security risk because the alternative, in their lived experience, is worse. When your customers prefer your abandoned product to your active one, you have not made a mistake. You have failed at the most fundamental level. And the people leaving Windows entirely are not disappearing. They are going to Linux. And this is where the story takes an unexpected turn, because Linux is no longer the complicated command line only alternative that your IT department warned you about in 2005. Linux desktop usage crossed 5% of the American market for the first time in history. That number sounds small until you look at the trajectory and velocity of the growth. The Stack Overflow Developer Survey from 2025 found that 27.8% of professional developers now use Ubuntu as their primary operating system, not as a server tool. As their daily working environment, developers are the people who make technology decisions for companies and industries. When they move, everything else moves eventually. And the experience of modern Linux distributions like Ubuntu and Fedora is genuinely different from what it was even 5 years ago. Installation is straightforward. Compatibility with professional software is stronger than at any point in Linux's history. The performance advantages over Windows 11 are measurable and significant. And crucially, it is free of the surveillance, the advertising, the forced subscriptions, and the quarterly disasters. Users who fled Windows after the Windows 10 end-of-life deadline, many of them expected to hate Linux, expected to struggle with it, expected to come crawling back to Microsoft within a week. Instead, they discovered it worked better than what they had left, and they stayed. Chrome OS and its more flexible version Chrome OS Flex, which can be installed on older hardware that Windows 11 rejected, are finding audiences in education and enterprise environments. BESD-based systems are attracting the security-focused users who need maximum stability and robust protection. The exit doors from Windows are more open, more accessible, and more appealing than at any point in computing history. Here is where we land. Windows 11 is not a failed experiment that a good team will eventually fix. It is the clearest expression of what Microsoft has decided to become: a platform company that uses an operating system as a delivery mechanism for subscriptions, advertising, data collection, and AI products that most users did not ask for and do not find useful. The instability is real and it is chronic. Over 20 critical failures in a single year. Boot loops, dead audio, broken peripherals, systems requiring full reinstalls after mandatory updates. These are not acceptable outcomes from a product that runs on over 1 billion devices and that millions of people depend on to do their jobs every day. The surveillance is real and it is deliberate. Recall was not an accident. It was a product decision made by senior engineers and approved by senior leadership. The telemetry, the data collection, the behavioral tracking embedded in the operating system are not oversights. They are architecture. The monetization is real and it is aggressive. An operating system that puts advertisements in your start menu and sponsored results in your file search is not a productivity tool. It is a storefront, and you are paying in money, in attention, in data, and in trust to stand inside it. And the response from the market is real and it is accelerating. Governments are mandating alternatives. Enterprises are migrating. Developers are building their careers on non-Windows systems. And regular users, millions of them, are choosing an unsupported dead operating system over the currently shipping one because that is how much confidence in Microsoft has collapsed. The era of Windows as the default, inevitable, no other option foundation of personal computing is ending. Not dramatically, not all at once, but steadily, measurably, and in ways that are now visible in market data, government policy, and enterprise infrastructure decisions worldwide. That does not mean Windows disappears tomorrow. Legacy inertia is powerful. Corporate procurement cycles are long. Millions of people will continue using Windows 11 for years simply because changing is hard and the pain has not yet crossed their personal threshold. But the trajectory is clear, and the question for every person watching this is no longer whether Microsoft is going in the wrong direction. The evidence on that is overwhelming and consistent. The question is what you are going to do with that information. Your computer is your tool, your workspace, the place where you do your most important work, store your most important files, communicate with the people who matter most to you. You paid for it. You own it. You get to decide what runs on it. And that might just be the most important computing decision you make this decade. Drop your thoughts in the comments. What's your experience with Windows 11 been? Are you staying, switching, or already gone? Because this conversation is one worth having out loud.